Color tends to corrupt photography, and absolute color corrupts absolutely. There are 4 simple words for the matter, which must be whispered. Color photography is vulgar. Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
Each time we start the show, I have to come up with some different way to say that. But, I never even planned that. When Tom and I started the show, I had no idea how I was going to start it. And say, well, I'm going to talk like this, or I'm going to speak like this. It just happened. And now it's like, I got to keep doing it this way.
Yeah.
I can't switch it. You know?
So we know who we are. What show is this?
What show is this? This is a show. This is episode 157 for tax day in the United States.
Oh, that's right. It's your tax day.
Middle of April. Yeah, and now I'm filing an extension. I just have too much emotional stuff going on. I can't even think about taxes. I just told my accountant, just tell me what throw out a number and I'll pay some money, and then we'll figure out the rest of it later in October.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you do what you must, my friend.
Yeah. It's too many things going on in life now for me to worry about taxes. If the tax people are listening to this, I'm sorry. just listen to my episodes. You'll know what's going on in my life. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're in the middle of April, and today it was 81 degrees in New York, and then we had a giant thunderstorm come through.
Oh, we had snow. We've had snow for the past 3 days.
It's like
rude.
Yeah, this is not.
Oh, by the way, this is the Street Shots Photography Podcast. I don't think we said that.
I said that. I said that at the beginning. That's
why.
Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast.
I'm telling you, I had a nap today, and it's really messed me up. So
I know. Ward is telling me offline that he had a nap and he's tired. I was like, the whole point of a nap is so that you're not tired. So
sleepy. I'm sleepy, not tired. I'm not fatigued. I'm just like, if I put my head down again, I'm going to go,
Yeah. Well, we record this show at night. It's later for me than it is for Ward. It's about 10:20 my time and 8:20 your time.
That's right.
But we're getting on there in age, so we get tired early. So anyway, that's enough of the talking about how old we are. My update is I'm still not back on Instagram.
And, so any progress or any kind of news there?
There is, no progress as far as I can tell. My brother is actually in contact with the hacker. He is in Nigeria, and he is loath to give it back. And we were trying to negotiate some sort of escrow or something like that to pay him some money to get the account back. Wow. My brother's taking care of that, and he's actually pretty good at I don't want to say social engineering. What's the word when you're?
It's social engineering. Social engineering is when you cajole something.
Yeah, but he's not doing that. He's talking to the guy legitimately.
Oh, negotiation, just negotiation.
Negotiating really, well with him. But so far I haven't heard anything. Instagram or Facebook is like they don't give a crap about the individual. I've done the face. People have sent me, you can take selfie videos to compare. I don't think I've got a picture of myself on my Instagram, at least not in my. I might in my archive because you can archive pictures in Instagram, but not on my mainstream. I don't think there's a picture of me. There might be. Maybe. But I've done the video like 6 times so far, and each time it's like, well, we don't know. So I have no idea of how to get back in. Anyway, if anybody's listening to this show, if they know a good way of getting back in that doesn't require the video because it doesn't work, and I don't have the 2-factor authorization. What is it called?
Authentication.
Yeah.
2FA or MFA.
2FA. Yeah. I never set it up, and of course it's too late. And so he set it up, the hacker set it up, so I can't get in. But Instagram and Facebook are no help whatsoever. And so they don't care. And it made me start thinking about this. I've been off since, I don't know when. It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Probably more.
Yeah.
So I've lived without Instagram for that long. I even, I have the app on my phone and I can open up my other accounts, but I'm not following the same people on the other accounts. And so the streams are different. So I'm not seeing any pictures. And when it comes time to lifting up the phone, right, it's like I do, and taking a look at it when I've got a break, I'm not seeing a stream of photos, and I'm not able to share photos other than on Twitter and Facebook. And so it's got me thinking. I've just been thinking about this for a while. Like, what it bothers me that someone's got my account and my kind of my identity. I will say that Facebook or Instagram did take off the post. He was posting some pictures, and they removed those. But it's like, geez, if you can remove those, can't you just notice that I'm the guy?
Yeah.
Like, they're not doing anything. But and I think he might have hacked a few people through DMs. So, again, I've been trying to tell people, but again, it's almost impossible to tell everybody what's going on. But I'm thinking, like, what does this mean for my identity as a photographer, in general? And like, I lived most of my life without Instagram, right? Instagram is a relatively new thing. And so what was I doing then? And what was I considering myself as a photographer? And how now it's so wrapped up in Instagram, or at least it was. And so I have these mixed feelings about it. Definitely like a cold turkey kind of thing, like a withdrawal, because there's nothing to look at. And I follow a lot of good photographers. I like seeing the pictures. And I know we've talked about this a zillion times. You see the pictures sort of out of context. It's a stream and doom scrolling, or whatever you want to call it. It's not doom scrolling, but, just constantly looking and looking and looking, new pictures. I haven't seen new pictures other than what I'm seeing on the groups I follow on Facebook.
Right.
And picking up books, like I need to sort of go through my books. So and then, with all the other stuff that's going on in my life now, how much energy do I really want to put into getting my Instagram account back? I mean, I know I'm not a photographer commercially anymore. Like, I don't, so I'm not using that to get jobs. Although I'd love to, but like, it's not happening. Right? It probably wouldn't happen anyway. And I know that, like, what's going to happen is when I finally start sharing my, or if I start meeting people, like, what's your Instagram account? What's your Instagram account? Do I start a new one?
Right.
Which I don't really want to do, because I want my name. I like everything.
Like Am Rosario.
Yeah. Am Rosario. I'm Am Rosario everywhere. And to be something different on Instagram just bugs the crap out of me. And then what would happen, I guess if I got it back, I could always shut the new account down, right? I guess it wouldn't be such a big deal. But I haven't started a new account yet. I mean, I keep holding out. So again, I'm not sure. Like, I'm just in this place of like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to share pictures again through Instagram, or do I care? I'm in this zone, but it's a very interesting place to be. It's very interesting to think about, what am I doing? I still take street shots. I took a few today. I was mostly with my iPhone walking around, but I was like, I processed them. I'm like, okay, now what am I going to do with them? I put them on Twitter, and Twitter is like screaming out into the Grand Canyon. It's like, hey, I'm here. And then, like,
and you get two or three likes, and that's it.
There's no answers. You retweet something, I might get something from Marco LaRousse, who's, say that's a nice thing, or likes it, and that's it. It is a dead world. And I don't have the energy to sit there on Twitter all day and go, to start to bring up my, my engagement on it. So it really brings up this whole issue about social media and what it does, and, I understand throwing out pictures in the world and not responding means, like, well, of course you're going to get pushed down on the chain of, stuff. So I don't know. The jury's out yet in me about what it means. And I know I don't like it. I know I'm missing something. I miss it. Like I miss.
Oh, you do. So it's not like there's a bit of relief because you have one less mouth to feed in terms of social media.
There's a little bit of that too. I mean, again, my time these days, I'm not spending as much time on social media. The only reason I spend time on Facebook is I got a lot of friends, actual friends.
Friends, yeah.
And I want to hear what they're saying. I know Facebook is not, everybody's got their thing about Facebook, but when it's just friends, people I know, or, people in my neighborhood and part of the group, there's interesting things. I actually get some value from that, and I can contribute as well to to stuff going on Facebook. So I like that. I mean, that's how I met, Shane in the Frames group on Facebook. So there's there is some value. But yeah, no, it is it's true. It's not another mouth to feed, another thing I don't have to do every day. Although I wasn't, sometimes in Instagram, it does feel like a desert as well,
Yeah.
So I don't know. If anybody else has got experience like that you want to share, just let us know. I mean, we're just really curious about this.
Yeah.
And, it also brings up the question, like, what if Instagram just disappears someday? What if Elon Musk buys it?
Yeah.
Or something, deletes it or something.
He's on his way to doing that with Twitter. So
I know. I'm not even sure what that means, and Twitter, sorry to go, this is a slight tangent, but Twitter, I've got two experiences with Twitter. I use a Twitter app and the Twitter app. I use a Twitter app called Tweetbot, which shows the timeline. It doesn't have a lot of the features that Twitter has because Twitter doesn't allow them through their API.
Through their API, yeah.
So you got to use Twitter, but Twitter's app makes me want to stick a screwdriver in my ear.
Yeah.
It is such a, it's presenting stuff that I don't know about and I really don't care about. When I go back to Tweetbot, I know it's my friends or people I followed in a chronological order. But I also noticed that, again, it's almost like a little bit of a desert out there, and so anyway.
Well, when something big's going on, I like TweetDeck. When the beginning of the war in Ukraine, like I was watching it like a live news feed and listening to Spaces, the open source intelligence stuff, and it's fascinating as heck. So I enjoy that part of it, but I tend to go towards Twitter as just getting kind of hard news coming from someone,
stuff that's happening right away.
Right now.
I'm not finding that, at least, I follow a lot of photographers and they show up in my timeline when they post, but it doesn't feel, at least to me yet, like there's a community.
No. Really.
Whereas Facebook, there are the groups and there is a bit of a community talking back and forth with people.
It favors broadcasters. Like if you're a Lady Gaga fan, then Twitter is it, right? Because it's big broadcasting. Yeah.
Putting out a picture, on Twitter is like, I'll do it because it doesn't cost me anything. And it doesn't really, I had my Instagram feed attached to Twitter. So when I post on Instagram, it automatically would go to Twitter.
Yeah.
But neither one really helps each other. Twitter didn't send people to Instagram. Instagram, and again, I'm an old guy complaining a little bit, I grew up with the internet and stuff like that, but this is a different world. And, I don't spend the time that I think those systems want me to in order to gain things. And I don't know, what am I gaining? Like, all right, I'll get, 100 more followers or 200 more followers, but is that going to get me a job, or can people buy my prints or none of that's happened yet, or I don't think it will happen with me. I mean, it does happen to some photographers and that's great, or artists or whatever. And I'm not going to talk about NFTs. Put that aside for some other weird show. I'm not getting into
invite Brian back for that, right?
It'd be interesting to have a debate. I got another photographer who would love to put on the show do a battle with those guys. Anyway, enough said about that. So let's get to the show.
Okay, what's the show about this time?
Well, I had no idea what to talk about, which is how we start the show all the time, right? I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. And I'm on the subway this morning and I'm looking through my Walker Evans book, even though we did already talk about Walker Evans at least once. I would love to talk about him again. I think there's so many levels to and
not just a repeat. We'll actually
not just a repeat.
We're gonna talk about him again. Yeah,
I've got this book of his called The Hungry Eye, which is more like a catalog of his work,
a bunch of different things.
Yeah, kind of. And it's interesting for someone like him who's got started here and then ended up here in multiple different segments and different styles, I would say. But what I ended up looking at was his color work in the end of his life, towards the end of his life. Polaroid gave him an SX70 and all the film that he could use. And the opening quote, by the way, for the show is Walker Evans, right? I won't repeat it now because you'll heard it. Yeah. And this is like one of the times where I know what the quote is. I can say this. It's usually the way we do the show is that we record the show and then I come up with a quote. And so I can't give a credit at the end. I'm trying to work on that somehow. But anyway, he was given an SX70. So with tons of Polaroid film, and he started going around. He was a collector of things. He liked to collect signs, and he would actually photograph signs as well. And he's, at the beginning of his career when color photography was just coming in, he disliked color, and then he's ending his career in color. So anyway, that being said, actually using Walker as sort of a template here, we talked last episode about why black and white.
Right.
So I thought, well, why not say why color, right? And I wasn't sure how to talk about that, but color photography. Oh, so color photography is sort of the elephant in the room, right? We do it all the time. This is what we do.
Yep.
But with Evans, he discovered it and he disliked it initially, but then when he was finally given this SX70 instant pictures, which reminds me so much of an iPhone, right?
Right.
Because it's something that is light that you can carry, and the pictures are instant, and you're done. You can take a picture, and you're done, and anybody can do it.
Those first generation folding SX70 cameras, I got 2 of them. They are beautiful.
I want to get one. So I got to figure out how I can save up to get one, so that I can use the new Polaroid film in it. But anyway, he's taking these shots, and he's walking around, and suddenly he is sort of ending his lifetime of photography in color. For someone who started off at some point saying color was vulgar,
right,
and then seeing the work that he's doing in color. So anyway, it made me think about this. Let's talk about why color. And I'm not even sure how to talk about that because we just take color photography all the time. But I did want to say that we talked about this last time. You and me grew up starting with black and white.
Black and white, yeah.
Right, and then color.
And that's just my preferred mode of creating art, right?
It is, and you're just born into it, and it wasn't the same for me. I actually was really happy when I could finally start photographing color, and it was, I want to say economical, it made economic sense, but like I could do it. I think actually what happened was in my first color photography course was in SVA, and we had a color processing machine, and
cool.
I don't know if
like a drum thing.
It was something that I can't remember what it was. It was like a machine, and we stuck the paper in the dark room, and then we had to go out and come at the end, and the print came out the other end. And we were doing.
You were shooting reversal film. You were shooting negative film, or you were shooting.
Well, no, I'm talking about no. So I was talking about the we had to. I think we got the film processed outside.
Okay.
And then we were doing the color printing in the dark room. So we were using plastic RC. We talked about this before. RC plastic paper in a Kodak machine. I might be remembering this wrong, but there's nobody here to contradict me because it doesn't matter. But I think it was 1 semester of color processing. And you know what? Where are those prints? I got some.
Are they like Cibachrome or whatever? They were.
No, you could not do Cibachrome. Cibachrome was so. You got 2 old guys talking about old processes.
Yeah.
Cibachrome was made by Ilford, right?
Right.
And Cibachrome is something that you could not really do in a home darkroom. That had to be set up with, it was sort of like Kodachrome.
Okay.
It was I think it was a proprietary machine and chemicals, and it was too much of a crazy process for you to do. But Cibachrome was one of the best ways, other than dye transfer, I think, to get a color slide transparency to print.
Right. Yeah, I knew it was a positive process.
Right. And in a way that looked like color transparencies. It was also a very, very, very glossy paper. It was incredibly shiny. But no, this was a Kodak process that we were doing, and it was anyway. So that was the only time I actually did color. And then I started moving into slides, which is, you shoot a slide and then you're done. Yeah. But I was doing that for commercial purposes. So anyway, our transition is we start off in black and white, and we moved into color, some of us, because we could or we wanted to. And now today, the default is color. Right?
Color, yeah.
For the most part. You buy a camera from the store, you buy unless you're buying one of these Leica monochrome cameras, which I think that might be one of the, or might be one or two Leica cameras that do monochrome.
There's a Q. There's a Q2. Is it a Q2 monochrome version, and then there's like an M10.
An M10 or something like that. Yeah, there's and which is interesting. I don't want to get into that. And people are like, it's a $7,000 camera and only shoots black and white. Blah, blah, why would you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. But pretty much every camera you buy, every digital camera you buy today is defaulted set on color. You turn it on, you put a battery in, you put a card in, take a picture, it's color. Yeah. Your iPhone, your Android phone, you buy it, take a picture, it's color. Color, 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 color. So everybody starts in color today and then converts to black and white, right? So where am I going with this?
I don't know. I'm looking for a hole in your armor here.
Oh, well, hang on. Maybe there is. I'm going to fast forward, 50 years. I don't know why. But in the same way that we grew up with black and white, and then we sort of migrated to color when we wanted to, or if we did, maybe not you so much, but you know what I mean? Like we kind of had to be in black and white mainly because economics and it's the best way to learn and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we converted. I'm talking about us personally, not like artists in general, because people were shooting color when we were just starting off too, right? So, but what's going to happen in 50 years, right? So when photographers today who are growing up with color as the default, will they migrate to black and white in the way that we migrated to color? Will something like that happen? I don't know. But I did want to sort of play around with this idea of why do we default into color? It is the world we see, right? But I'm giving you an opening. I was like,
well, if I'm going 50 years in the future, I'm thinking of something else. Actually, I'm thinking of, because we're already doing this depth mapping stuff with our phones. I can see sculptures being created of scenes that we would have shot on our phones.
But that's subject matter. That's not like the technique.
That's subject. But I know, but I'm just saying,
like, I'm talking
technology.
About like, okay, fine. But we do that now a little bit. Now we have depth mapping and whatnot. But again, it's what I want to sort of counteract what we were talking about with black and white, or just come up with the, why we choose color to photograph today. And I also want to touch on the fact that not all colors are the same.
No,
right?
But I mean, for somebody starting out, it's the most realistic rendering of what you're seeing.
But why do we want realism, right? I mean, the whole idea of black and white photography is we're not getting realism.
Memory, for me, it would be, if I was a really color advocate, I'm a weak color advocate. And it's funny because I just posted a color picture on my Instagram. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to bring up Instagram again. But I posted a color picture from a photo walk I took with the camera club here last weekend. Because when I do shoot color, it's because it is an accurate rendering of what I saw, and the colors are pretty, or they're striking, or whatever. And that's, it serves my, what's the word I'm looking for? Transfers the experience of being there better than, how do I put it? Colors of sort of, for me, it's like being there, reproducing what I saw. Black and white is me trying to create an object based on the raw material of what I shot.
Okay.
It's two different kind of things.
All right. Well, that's how you're approaching color.
That's how I'm approaching. But that, I mean, if I'm going to be an advocate for color, that's what I'm going to say.
All right. I mean, and it's an approach, right? But when we talk about color, okay. So for instance, I recently purchased, was watching Ted Forbes on the Art of Photography YouTube channel. And he had an episode which caught my eye, and I think it was like 8 minutes long, and I'm in a song, and I watched it, and it was basically an advertisement for his Kodachrome or his Kodak and Fuji presets.
Okay.
I like his channel, and I appreciate all the work he's doing. I wasn't a big fan of that episode because it was a 8-minute commercial, and it wasn't advertised as it. He was talking about,
I see.
There was something about it that I was like, okay, let me see what's going on. But he was talking about his presets. But at the end of the show, I ended up logging onto a site and buying his presets because they were Kodachrome or Kodak presets, not Kodachrome. There were some Kodachrome presets and Ektachrome presets in there. And for nobody who knows what we're talking about film presets that are built into Lightroom. He also has them for Capture One. So I ended up buying them, and I already have a bunch of Kodachrome presets that I also purchased a couple of years ago on Lightroom as well. And I use those a lot. I actually have some Fuji presets as well.
And the Fuji, that's what I was going to say. Like I picked up a couple of, I didn't pick them up. They're from a website, which the name I didn't bother to look up because I didn't know we were going to talk about it. But this guy has all of these different settings for your Fuji camera to make it simulate.
Those are the film simulations, the recipes.
Yeah, the film simulations,
right?
recipes. Yeah,
different, not different execution for the same ideas, like having simulations of film, which is really interesting because color slide film, which a lot of these are trying to duplicate, does not have never had the dynamic range of digital sensors. So already we're trying to simulate something that, you have this many colors, but trying to squish them into these many colors. So
and taking the shadows way down and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Making blues look weird.
Yeah. But I own all these presets because I love, I do like the film look. It was one of the reasons why I stayed with Fuji, or I like Fuji, is their recipes built into the camera. But each of these, even the Ted Forbes presets and this other presets, I can't remember the name of the JW, I think Kodachrome presets JW, they're different, when they're even trying to simulate the same film, because each of them, the creators of the presets, have a different interpretation of what the slides look like to them. And so, you go back into these things and you see like, oh, I want to simulate, Saul Leiter's look or William Eggleston, right? Right. And it wasn't like those guys had a look. They shot film, right? Which was made by Kodak, most likely, processed by Kodak machines. Probably, unless they were different laboratories, there could be variations in how they were processing, but those guys did not do anything to their films to make them look like that. They chose subjects.
They changed the setting on the enlarger or whatever if they were gonna.
Perhaps, but if they're shooting slides, they're not doing anything. They're just shooting Kodak. The slide is the finished picture. So anyway, everybody's doing an interpretation color. So this is a long-winded way of saying all the colors that we're seeing are interpretations.
Yeah.
The world that you're seeing in color is not the world that you're capturing on your camera. And it's certainly probably not the final picture that you're spitting out to the world. None of that. No. So how is it realism?
Well, in the way, if you're framing it that way, it isn't. It is the camera companies and the guys that write these presets are helping you or trying to sell you solutions that provide a product that has a certain look to it. And, we're starting to ring the bell on your word nostalgia, right? Oh, it looks like, this picture looks like a Kodachrome. Like I have these pictures I took at the zoo of tulips in the flower garden that I shot with Kodachrome 25 before they quit making it. And they're among my favorite. 25. Oh, my favorite.
It's a wonderful film.
Oh, just the red, like just
the reds were insane. The reds were insane. If you ever took a picture of a rose with a Kodachrome 25, you know what we're talking about. Yeah. By the way, there's no cameras today that have a native ISO of 25 or can go down there. They all do extended fake ISOs, but nothing natively goes down that far.
If you could get me a film simulation or a preset that actively or actively is the wrong word, that can give me a realistic interpretation of that Kodachrome 25, I think I would buy it for sure. But what was I going with this? Oh, the nostalgia aspect. All right. That's why these companies are putting this stuff out there, because it's not enough just to have a camera that produces a color product. You want people to have, their creative, some kind of creative control, if you want to call it, by making the selection of these different simulations. Mm-hmm. And if you're old guys like us who pine for the Kodachrome days, and you can have something, it's a fun project to go out and shoot flowers or whatever, and then come back and process it and have it look like Kodachrome 25.
Yeah,
I'd be all over that. I mean, that for me, that explains sort of why they exist. And there's some fun, I think, in developing the recipes for them, or developing where the slider should go in Lightroom.
Sure. We have a lot more variations.
Yeah.
My pictures can look a lot different. Actually, when you open up a photography magazine, or like I was talking about Frames, the group I'm part of in Facebook, and they have a quarterly magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the pictures that are being printed there, and all the different photographers have different color looks. I mean, you could just rattle off a list of modern photographers, and each one is a different interpretation of color. Right. Each one is actually so what is, not only is nostalgia involved in this, right? When we're talking about, okay, I want things to look like film, and maybe for you and me, for me, I might have said this before in the past, but I was the kind of photography I was doing in color, it was stock photography and it was commercial. And when I could stop having film as part of my workflow, I was really happy. I was like ecstatic to like get rid of film.
Right.
Because then it was digital, it was new, and it was fun, and it was instant. I had more control over it, and all the stuff that's built into digital already.
Yeah.
And then, years later, I noticed that someone comes along and says, well, digital pictures can look like this. And again, sorry to make this a Fuji thing, but I don't think any other company has made a camera that's done, maybe Leicas, but I haven't shot with them yet. Digital, not Leicas. But Fuji certainly made let's try to make an image look less digital. Right? And I was like, like compared to my Nikon, right? And I look at a picture that I shoot with my Fuji in color and a picture that I shoot with my Nikon in color. The Fuji looks somehow more natural to me. And I don't necessarily mean that it's film-like, but film was a natural thing. It was chemical and whatever. But I could see differences. I could see, this is Nikon looked more like it was, how to describe it. I don't have words to describe it, but it didn't look as...
Looked a little bit more clinical, yeah.
Clinical. I noticed that with Sony pictures too, and maybe not so much with Canon, but it exists. So I wasn't nostalgic for film in the sense of like,
just the look. I mean, that's
I was like, I liked something that didn't look like it was reminding me that it was just pixels, right? Because that's what digital files are, just pixels, and not really not an actual representation of what you photographed. It's a copy.
Yeah.
It's a signal processed in a computer that's saying this is what that color was and this is what that brightness was. It's not like film, which was actually, sorry for doing this, I probably have done this a zillion times as well, but like, the slides I have on my, the ones that I shot in Germany, my slides are there. They were actually there. Those pieces of film traveled with me, and they captured
the metaphysical part of film photography.
And people are like,
my old rodeo pictures that I shot on Ektachrome.
And half the audience,
they were there with me.
Yeah. Half the audience is like, "Oh, shut up! You're just." like, but there's something. Yeah. There's something to that. Anyway, but to not be reminded that I'm creating something. Well, I'm going off really not about colors anymore. But I did want to go back to this interpretation thing. That's not nostalgia. That I can create my own look in color, but it's not necessarily realism. Now, again, we can differentiate people who are just buying cameras for the first time, or they're using their phones to take pictures. I spend some time in my classes talking to the students to talk about post-processing. Like, the picture that comes directly out of your camera, you don't necessarily have to be satisfied with.
Yeah.
You can be. It could be the picture you want. But how do you put your own voice in it? How do you see the world? How do you see colors and stuff like that? And, thinking about photographers, I don't know if you know about this photographer, Pete Turner.
I know the name.
Pete Turner is, in fact, Alex Kilby did an episode recently on Pete Turner. And I know Pete Turner because he had submitted, he was also a stock photographer. I mean, he was submitting stock.
See the bold colors.
Very bold colors.
And balloons and...
But not just that, he also would reprocess his pictures. Like, he was known for taking pictures of his pictures. So like if you would take a slide in the past and you put it on a slide copier, which would basically be like an upside down enlarger.
Right.
So the head was on the bottom, and then you had a little sort of clear, sort of frosted area where you put the slide on, and you had 3 dials where you could actually change the colors. But what he did was, and there was a bellows on top where you attach your camera, and then you could copy the slide. It was a slide copier. And actually, what you were supposed to do is use duping film. Duping film was a very, very low contrast slide film. And in the stock agencies, we had a lot of this. We would work with a laboratory. We would take a photographer's original, and we would want to send copies of it to different agencies. So we would have an original, and we would dupe them. We call them dupes. Yeah. And you would use low contrast film to maintain as much as the original as possible. The dupe would never look as good as the original because it was never as sharp, but it worked. Yeah. Pete Turner did something like this, and forgive me if anybody knows Pete Turner. I don't know exactly his process, but a little bit about it because we would edit his work. But he would duplicate his Kodachrome pictures onto Kodachrome film, and what that did was build up the color and the contrast. And eventually he would also start adding elements and stuff like that. I don't know how to describe this. He would do this like 2 exposure kind of thing. But he was very well known for like oversaturated, really bright colors. He'd find something and he would photograph it, and then he could duplicate it to build up that. And his colors were just, and what wasn't the same. I remember Kilby saying this. It was great to watch his episode because I knew Pete Turner's work, and so I knew his technique. And so Kilby is talking about this from a different point of view. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But, he was, oh, shoot. I forgot what I was going to say. It was like about his colors.
Well, you're getting away from the reality, getting away from
the reality. See, this is what happens when you work late at night, work 8 hours. But Turner would, he would take regular subjects, like a shot of a wall in Morocco, and then build up this color. Oh, I know what you're saying. The color was more of a natural color buildup, whereas like wasn't quite the same. Kilby noticed this. If you like took the image and pumped up the saturation or vibrance in Lightroom, not the same. It was basically working with the limitations of slide film that created this look. And there's really not an easy way, I think, to do it in Photoshop or Lightroom or something like that. I mean, you could probably do it. I'm sure if you looked at it long enough, you could figure out how. Yeah. But someone's like, it would be the same thing as saying, well, I'm going to create a black and white picture by just turning the saturation down. No, that's not how you make a black and white picture. That's how you remove the color. So the same thing with this. You couldn't really duplicate it. So anyway, Turner is coming up with his own way of creating sort of natural, bright colors, and that became his style. I mean, that was his signature style, and it was not based in any reality. He was taking real colors and then enhancing them and sort of pushing the limits of them and creating his reality, how he saw something like a garbage can on a beach. So it was like a blue sky and orange sand and a yellow garbage can with a green or red doorway on it, and it was saying something. It wasn't reality though. It was far from reality. And he was not shooting in black and white. He was shooting colors. So all these guys, and we've talked about color photographers before. I mean, Eggleston and stuff like that. And I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of why, color was such a big deal in the art world then. Yes, it was new but I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to figure that stuff out. But I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, we're sitting here with our beers and stuff like that.
Our beers. No, I couldn't.
Our beards,
beer.
I should say.
Our
beards.
Okay, because if it was beer, I'd be.
No, I said beer, but I'm switching it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. A strokey beard thing, as Kilby would say.
But if
I could
consider this carefully.
Scratching your beard.
Consider this carefully.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem with any of what you're saying. Like, I'm not yes, I'm an apologist for black and white, but I don't mean to be I don't mean to exclude color. I'm not things aren't just black and white for me.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going back to my own thoughts about this, how I approach it. Like, and it's I can shoot. It's funny when you say, when you shoot a color image in you don't have a digital camera and you can do something, you can do post-processing with it or not. And maybe what you intended was just, what came straight out of the camera. And a lot of people do that. They shoot straight out of the camera and they're able to, publish to Instagram or do whatever. And they can do, I can't. Even with color images, I do modify them so that it meets my idea of what the image should look like. And I have no problem with it departing from reality. I don't want to make it freakish. I don't want to turn, blues into magentas. I don't want to do that kind of infrared or, infrared film that came out for a while, or maybe it's still available, that where the colors are really, wacko. For me, they're nightmarish. But I would tune it a little bit. I'd probably punch up the saturation depending on the day. And if the image had a little bit of red in it that was really punchy and I really want the picture to be about red and make it look a little bit more sol lightery, then I would dial up a little bit of saturation for the reds.
So why? To
make it look like my intention.
Your intention or what you saw? Or
no,
I mean, like
no,
you didn't see the colors that saturated, right? Obviously.
No,
right.
I didn't.
So you boosted.
But I'm just creating like when I'm in black and white, I want to make it look like the way I think it should be seen when you do get a chance to view it. I don't want to make it look freakish, like I just said. I don't
right.
want to make
solarization kind of crazy.
Yeah. Maybe there's a point for that, and maybe if I do a project for that, I'll be happy to do that. But if I'm shooting color, I will definitely look at it and see where are the pluses and minuses here, and just boost it a little bit so that it doesn't look. We were talking on the last show about, we get this pile of color prints back from the drugstore, and they're flat and awful, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, now we can do something.
Right now we can do something about it. Yeah,
we can do something about it, and for the most part, because I use whatever it is, the Provia, which is the default. I believe that's the default setting on the Fuji camera.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's meant to look like color negative film, right?
No, Provia is a slide film.
Provia is a slide film. Sorry. And I think, the saturation is getting up there, but for certain subjects, I definitely want to boost it. Maybe boost the contrast a little bit as well. But I don't have any problem with it departing from reality, because just the fact that you're capturing something, whether it's in color or black and white, you're a layer away from the actual reality. And I don't really think of it as I want the picture to look realistic. The final product should look realistic, but it doesn't have to be exactly what I saw. I'm not a photojournalist. I'm not a
right. We're there.
I am trying to be an artist.
Well, we're here to interpret. I mean, I like to think that people would look at my work because they want to see how I see the world.
Yeah.
But, then I get people who are asking me, you really see the colors like that? For instance, this is a great example. I haven't done them in a while, but my sunrise pictures that I was doing, right? And sunrise pictures were not about the motivation behind them. Let me see if I can say. I wasn't really trying to make any kind of special statements about sunrises. I just happened to live in a place that faces east. And when I went up in the morning, and sometimes it is just spectacular. Right. And I will post the pictures. I will shoot them, edit them. I'll transfer them to my iPhone. Most likely, I will shoot JPEGs. I mean, I shoot JPEG and RAW, but the RAWs never sorry, me making a little complaint here, but the processing the raw files from the Fuji to make them look like the way the JPEGs look like in the camera, I was like, I'm not spending time doing this. This is insane. The camera did a great job. So I'll take the JPEGs into Lightroom and I'll boost them up a little bit. I might push them a little too far. Sometimes I've done that, but I will certainly push the colors, because the experience of the sunrise, here we go, sirens. The experience of the sunrise is something more than just what it looks like in my eyes.
Right.
Right. So I'm experiencing the color of the morning colors are like, how do you describe it? Morning is a little bit different than sunset. There's a little more cooler pinks and blues when the sun is rising. And that's something that I'm affected by. And so I will take the pictures. I might boost up some, whatever processing I do. I'm not going to get into it because I don't know what I do. And then I'll post them and people say, those are great pictures. But, then they'll post their iPhone picture. It goes, but it looked more like this. And I'm like, well, no, it didn't really look like that because your phone is interpreting the world the way the phone does. And so that's not what the colors look like. Your eyes did not see that.
Yeah.
But I'll get the question of like, was that how it really looked? And I get stumbled sometimes in how to respond because I really wanted to just say, don't ask me that question. Why are you asking me that question? It's like, just shut up and enjoy the picture. Enjoy the picture. But I get this kind of like, people want to know. And then I've taken that as an idea to talk to students about saying, well, we kind of want to see the world. Like if we saw the world the way our eyes saw it, if we took pictures, color pictures, the way we see it with our eyes, I think it'd be terribly boring. And then we'd be like, well, why would we be taking pictures in the first place? Right? Because if everything you took looked exactly how you saw it, 5 or 6 feet in the air, horizontal color, the way the colors look to your eyes, it would not be very interesting. So I thought, well, maybe it's because we want to see the way cameras see the world uniquely. And that goes with lenses and, whatever else is built in the cameras, but it certainly is the color. And in the days of film, it was the way the films looked.
Rendered, yeah.
Right. Today, it's how your camera renders because Fuji renders different than Nikon, renders different than Leica, renders different than Canon. You all pick the ones that you like, and maybe for new photographers, it might take several iterations of cameras that you go through before you settle on the one. I'm like, oh yes. For me, I've been a Nikon user for a very, very long time. And then Fuji came along. I was like, yes, this is me. This is kind of how I want to see the world. So yeah, I want to see the world the way the camera shows me, which is of course the way some engineer and designer designed it.
Right. Yeah.
But at some point it's going to resonate, right? Or I figure I could do something. So anyway, I want to see the world, or I want to show the world the way I'm not coming up with the right word. Imagine it. It's just the idealized world for me. My sunrises are idealized because I wake up in the morning and there's
you're putting in emotional impact by making those adjustments.
And so the color has that aspect to it. That's why, I'm not going to shoot should I shoot a sunrise and turn it into black and white? I'm like, no, that is not the point. I can see that people have made great sunrise pictures in black and white or sunsets or whatever. That is not the way I'm affected by a sunrise. So I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. When I got off the train this morning, after I thought about the idea of let's do something about color, I suddenly was walking down the street and it was early morning. So the sun was coming, not early, but it was, sort of raking light. And it was bright, because it was bright sunlight. Usually sunlight is doing something to the colors, like midday summer sun kind of makes colors not great. But because this was a little bit of angled, I started seeing things differently. Suddenly, like a rug, rugs on a stairs, like a rug covered stairway, took on a different look. Or those barriers, those street barriers that you have. I think they're called Jersey barriers. I saw some with painted stripes with the paint peeling off and the texture because of the way the light, the raking light. And the color of the stripes that I painted. In fact, I processed those and I was like, these are great for me. They didn't necessarily make a great photograph. They might be a nice photograph, but I was suddenly in tune with color. Once I mentioned that I wanted to talk
once you're thinking about it.
I was talking about color. So it's like it's a way of getting away from being, so I'm yapping too much on this, but like this default thing, we want to choose to make pictures in color. Just like you want to choose to make them black and white. I know you're automatically going to shoot color no matter what you're doing these days for the most part. And then you can convert to black and white later.
Yes.
I don't want to do that. But I think you need to make the sort of conscious choice that you want to shoot something.
Shoot color. Well, it's funny. Like when Mark and I used to go out and take pictures downtown all the time, I try to have a mindset. What am I looking for? I'm looking for shapes. I'm looking for people. I'm looking for buildings. I'm looking for certain geometry of things. It's a time of day where, or the time of the year where the noonday sun goes down along the streets, the north-south streets. So I'll be looking for long shadows and those sorts of things in the wintertime, especially. So when you're thinking of color, you start seeing it and you have this kind of built-in mindset. And now I'm seeing the colors, I'm thinking about it, and then you can shoot from that context. And that's one thing that we don't say enough about when we're out shooting with friends or just out with ourselves. What is it? You give yourself a little mini assignment, and which of course you can deviate if you see something more interesting. You're not just limiting. You're not putting blinders on and just saying, I'm going to do this. Right. But having that mindset, and if you're thinking in color, that's one thing I don't know that I've really ever done. I could certainly.
But think about it, the days, let's go back to the photographers we were talking about before, like Leiter, Eggleston, or any of these people who are pioneers sort of at the cusp when color was just becoming to be taken seriously. When you stuck a roll of color film in your camera, that's it. You are committed to color. You sort of have to think that while you're out and shooting, and whether or not they were thinking about how the film would react after it gets processed, I don't know. Maybe not, because, Kodachrome generally was processing was pretty consistent between all the, but you would know this, I'm sure, more than I do, but different lenses would have different effects on film. Different lenses would lower the contrast or bring in flare or something like that, which would then also change the colors that the film was receiving. So that
if you're shooting slide film, you had to be much more careful about exposure too.
Slide film,
some hard lessons.
Generally slide film you could underexpose, but you didn't overexpose.
Yeah,
you can. In fact, if you underexpose Kodachrome by half a stop, often that was, depending on what you're shooting, quarter stop, half stop, maybe not a full stop, but you start to saturate the colors. If you overexposed, you were doomed. It was like overexposing. Yeah. But all that affects the color as well. But anyway, my point is that was your mindset was, okay, well, I got 36 exposures or 12 120 or 10 120 exposures in color, and that's what I had to think about, and that's what they're going out to do. Today, I don't know if that's the case. You don't necessarily, and I'm not saying you have to, but you go out, you take pictures, you default in color, you come back later, probably. And I'm overgeneralizing, of course, but you come back and then you say, oh yeah, this picture would look better in black and white. And great. Okay. So you have that option afterwards. That's fine.
Yeah. That's yeah. I don't like that.
What?
If I intended to shoot in color, I wouldn't switch it to black and white. I couldn't, like, that's a boundary I don't think I would cross unless there was something overwhelming about it that had some kind of graphic impact in black and white that I should have seen and decided to shoot it in black and white.
You would actually have shot it in black and white.
No. I would have shot it in color. I mean, with the intention
to black and white. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I could keep it a secret and not, like, ooh, I meant to shoot this in color, but it really came out black and white.
Ooh, I put one over on them.
Yeah, these people have no idea, fools. No, it was just, if I really intended it to be a color picture and it didn't work, I would just discard it or leave it alone in the Lightroom catalog. Be like, well, that's another disappointment. I'll move on. Okay. Yeah, I think. I don't know what to think anymore.
A thoughtful pause there.
It's a thoughtful pause, and nothing came to me.
All right. Well, actually, I spoke a lot, but I think I talked a lot about this because we're almost at an hour. So.
Yeah. But like we said about black and white, color is how our phones and by default our cameras are configured. they offer a more realistic rendering of the world around us, and that's a good thing. We still have the ability and, as photographers, even a drive to change, manipulate or tune the image to meet our intention, and different kinds of discovery in the process of shooting in color. It's another, it's another way to express yourself in photography. And so, like I say, I shoot black and white because that's more of my native language, but I've got nothing against color.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to take some pretty good color pictures in my day too, so I'm happy. I'm glad we have the option.
Yeah. And I was just, I wanted people to think about it a little bit more, that like we just said, it is the way the default is. It's you're not even thinking of shooting black and white because it's not, you don't open up your camera when you first buy it and the first picture you take out of it comes out black and white. Nobody wants that. Camera manufacturers don't want you to see that. It's not, I can imagine, the scandal that it would be if you bought a new Fuji camera and the first picture you took was in a black and white simulation. They'd be like, what? People would think I'd be getting tech calls from people saying my camera's taking black and white pictures. Why? But we go out, we put on a lens, we take a picture of a subject, we do all these things with some intention, right? And I like to think that's the point. But we probably don't think as much about the rendering of the image, the color that we're creating. We just, poor color just doesn't get a thought. You do have to think about black and white, just like you're saying. I need to think about this a little bit more and create black and white, but color does not get that stage because it's always there, and you don't think about it. And so my sort of point about this that I wanted to, I don't know if this is the point I started with, but I just wanted people to think about the intention that you are going to shoot color with some reason. You're going to post-process it if you want to create the color palette that sings to you, right? Like, oh yeah, that's me. Never be satisfied necessarily with what comes out of the camera. You could be satisfied with what comes out of the camera. Like what?
Well, one thing that Dan Winters, famous portrait photographer, if you look at his work, the color palette he has for his subjects, for his portraits, is quite different, and it's really arresting, but not necessarily realistic. But it's stunning. That what the work that he produces is stunning.
I agree. Maybe we should do a deep dive on him. So I bought one of his books. I don't know where it is now. But I got his Will Ferrell on the cover. It's Will Ferrell with this sort of alien outfit on or something like that.
Yeah.
But I see his pictures pop up. I think recently was some stuff that he was doing at NASA or the astronauts or something like that. Portraits, but the color palette was something not what you saw when you walked into his studio. I am probably 1,000% sure.
Yeah.
You saw the person with their clothes and dressed they were, but his final picture, the very almost monochromatic, but not quite.
Very cool. Yeah.
Very cool looking, almost dark to the point, but not too dark. Is at least how I'm seeing it. But very intentionful. So I know people are of all sorts of skill levels listen to this show, and really for the people who are just starting out. And again, this is sort of like what I tell students is don't just be satisfied with what the camera is giving you. That's always what somebody who made the camera thinks the world should look like. They dialed in these colors and whatnot. And you look at it and you say, okay. And then you say, why aren't my pictures as good as they could be? Well, maybe part of that is that, you're just going with the default, and maybe try to start thinking about something differently. Maybe this is not the camera for you. Maybe at some point you'll get another camera, which has different kinds of lenses, which produces colors slightly differently, but keep this in mind. Mindful photography is, I guess, what it boils down to, Don't just go and take a picture and be done. Think about it a little bit more. And again, you could be done or maybe not be done. So anyway, that's all I want to say about it. And I suspect again that this is a bigger subject I would like to talk more about, but I sort of wanted to open the book on it because we did the episode on black and white.
Black and white, yeah.
I think color should get its day, even though
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right, perfect.
And that's that.
And that is that. All right. Well, great. Well, where can we find you? I know you're on Instagram and you haven't been hacked.
And I haven't been hacked because I have my two-factor authentication.
Thank you a lot.
My day job is systems administration.
Learn from me, everybody. So
yeah,
don't answer any DMs and get your two-factor authentication all set up, please.
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm Ward Rosin Fine Art. On Twitter, I'm W Rosin Photo. On Facebook, I am Ward Rosin Photography, and I'm just plain old Ward Rosin on Flickr. And that's where you're going to find me. I have a website where Mark Ryerson and I are still selling the rodeo book. It's rosin.ca, rosin.ca. And that's it. And I have my little lens selling business called Ornis Photo.
Which
ORNIS.photo.
Or ORNIS.photo, which is our
unofficial sponsor.
Unofficial sponsor. As we go, thanks. All right. And we are well, actually, I haven't loaded up our Instagram account yet because I want to stay off, but Street Shots Podcast on Instagram. I'll work on it, hopefully. And until I'm back on IG, don't look for me on IG. I mean, you can actually look for me on IG, but don't follow me because I don't want you to get it hacked. But it's AM Rosario on IG. But I'm AM Rosario on Twitter as well. And so, yeah, maybe you can follow me there and maybe it won't be such a shouting into the Grand Canyon. And on Facebook, Rosario Photography. And website is amrosario.com. So search for me. Maybe this is a great time for me to get my website up and running and use that as my... Oh, I can open up a Tumblr again.
Yeah, get Tumblr going.
Get
what the
Tumblr
heck?
going.
Why not?
Yeah, and talk about a wasteland. Sorry. No, for me it was. It was not a wasteland. But anyway, that's it for tonight. Ward, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, and hopefully I can see you in a couple of weeks.
I'll be here.
We'll figure out something else to talk about.
Absolutely. Oh, I just and I should tell you that a friend and I from my Beers and Cameras group, we've lined up a model to do outside fashion shoot.
I'm looking forward to seeing
in May.
That. Okay.
And
when it's not snowing.
When it's not snowing, and I think my friend she's recovering from COVID actually right now, so we're going to have to push back that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and I'll report back. It probably won't be in the next 2 weeks, but it'll be sometime.
Well, we'll talk about that. That'll be kind of fun. So
yeah.
All right, man.
Get my inner Avedon going.
Yes. I would like to see that. Actually, that's a good thing to try to do something that's out of the norm. So we should probably talk about that. All right, man. Well, thanks for hanging out with me tonight, and I will see you later.
All right.
See everybody in a couple of weeks, right?
See ya.
Bye.